Episode 8, Aftermath, Rebuilding a Broken Nation, story title, Ashes and Echoes, 1970, the war ends, but the struggle begins. The ceasefire was signed, the guns were silent, but Nigeria, now reunited, stood at the edge of a cliff. 3 years of war, over 2 million dead, cities destroyed, families fractured, trust shattered. The question now was not who won, it was what now? Reconstruction, reconciliation, and the reality General Yakubu Gowon launched a post-war policy with 3 promises: reconciliation, reconstruction, rehabilitation. It was a vision to heal the nation, and at first the world praised Nigeria for avoiding large-scale retribution. There were no mass executions, no war crimes tribunals, but healing takes more than policies. In Biafra's former territory, the wounds ran deep and often unseen. Economic exclusion. The 20-pound policy for Igbo civilians returning to their lives, there was a brutal surprise. No matter how much money they had before the war, even if they had thousands of pounds saved in Nigerian banks, the government gave only 20 pounds to each person. One note, one bill. It was enough to buy a few bags of rice, not enough to rebuild homes, businesses, or futures. It was called policy. Many saw it as punishment. A new kind of war, silence and survival. Former Biafrans faced years of quiet struggle. Access to federal jobs was limited. Many universities were hostile. Entire regions were underfunded. The Igbo people turned inward, relying on community support, entrepreneurship, and education to survive and rise again. The war had taught them not to wait for help, so they began rebuilding, brick by brick, street by street. The rise of the Eastern economy, a quiet resurrection. By the late 1970s and 1980s, a surprising shift occurred. In cities like Onitsha, Aba, and Niue, something stirred, markets boomed, industries grew. Young men and women became traders, engineers, doctors, and business leaders. Niue became known as the Taiwan of Africa for its industrial output. From the ashes of defeat, the East began to rebuild on its own terms. It was not the Biafra they fought for, but it was survival, and in its own way, resistance. National challenges, a fractured unity. But while the East rebuilt, Nigeria struggled as a whole. Military coups continued. Corruption spread like wildfire. The promise of unity faded into ethnic division. Oil wealth fed the elite but left millions in poverty. The war had not united Nigeria, it had merely glued it back together with cracks still visible. Healing or hiding. For decades, Nigeria refused to teach the Biafra War in schools. There were no official memorials, no national days of mourning. This silence hurt, most in the East, where survivors lived with unspoken trauma. But some began to speak. Historians wrote books, artists painted pain, filmmakers documented what textbooks ignored. The healing began, not from the top, but from the people themselves. Hope in a new generation. Today, a new generation of Nigerians is rising, unafraid to ask hard questions. They demand honesty. They demand justice. They say we were not alive in 1967, but we live with its consequences. These youth, Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, and more, are forging a new kind of nationalism, one that doesn't pretend the past didn't happen, but one that insists, never again. Closing reflection. The war ended in 1970, but the rebuilding never really stopped. It continues, in every hospital, every school, every protest, every vote. Because rebuilding a nation isn't just about roads and bridges, it's about hearts and memories. It's about saying we survived, we remember, and we're still building together. Next episode optional, Biafra Today, the struggle that still breathes. A look at modern Biafran movements, IPOB, and the legacy of the Civil War in today's Nigerian politics.